Loose White dive on it.
This is twice now the Celtics have been first to the floor. They try to
Save with Horford. Unbelievable.
Boston first to the floor. So good.
Brown face fires up the three. Bang! Tatum dives on the floor. Everybody dives. Jaylen Brown with the flush. Blocked by Porzingis. He's doing it all. Tatum spinning, driving, layup. Got it. Washington drives. Blocked by White. Oh, what a block from Derek White.
Welcome into another episode of First to the Floor. Ben Vallis here. Thank you for joining us. Hope you're doing well. On the show tonight, the much anticipated Sam Hauser deep dive, plus some news around the team, including a Derek White brouhaha during a Colorado football game. Alongside me, as always, Wayne Spooney and Derek White's mistress, Jake Eisenberg. Guys, how we doing?
We're angry. We're mad, furious. I did not expect to wake up to the beautiful Derek White being in the kerfuffle. We'll get into it.
That was the perfect description, is kerfuffle. If I could quote KG for a minute, we got the AKs, we got the rocket launchers, Celtics Nation's ready for a bar fight. That guy needs to watch his back, man. That is the wrong dude to go after.
I saw that. I felt like Liam Neeson's. I was like, I have a very specific set of skills. I will be fine. I will find you,
my
Derek
daughter.
Exactly. And I will kill you.
Look, very quickly here, please hit that like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel and the audio podcast. It's all about that algorithm, and the more subs and views we get, the better chance we have of getting bigger guests on the show, maybe even a player, maybe even Derek White, who, like we said, found himself in a spot of bother during a Colorado football game on Saturday night. Let's roll the clip, and then Jake and Spoony will get your thoughts. We got the slow motion here. Bam. And then his mate ends up on the floor here. Seems like alcohol, definitely a factor. And then finally Bucket Hat comes along and sort of breaks it up, diffuses the situation.
And then another guy comes in a little bit afterwards. He's like, keep your hands up, Derek White.
Yeah.
We're here with you. We ride for Derek. It's like, dude, big people. Like, Derek's 6'4", and like the dude, Derek's friend that goes down is like the same size. Some large humans around. Like, your average NBA player is going to be a lot bigger than pretty much anyone. This is the problem with football. Like, it is so much fun to go to these games. The atmosphere is mostly awesome, but like, I don't know if I've told the story, but I've been knocked out at an NFL game before, not even in a fight. I left the 49ers Carolina Panthers game and just walking out, and someone came out of the crowd, just like flying punched me, knocked me out, and ran into a crowd, like with no provocation that we're aware of.
Wow.
That's
crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy. And thankfully they didn't get Derek White like that, but yeah, it's tricky because he's obviously going to all these Colorado games, living his summer life, having a few beers, and Colorado destroyed Colorado State, if I'm not mistaken, Spoony, and there'd been a bunch of shit talk in the lead up, and I'm like, part of the great thing about sports is like shit talk, but there's just this level that people are willing to go past, and that seems to happen a lot in particular American football games, in my experience, and so it's just disappointing.
Yeah, college football, I mean, I go to WVU games pretty often, and big-time rivalry games like that, there is sort of an undercurrent of violence underneath everything that makes it less fun to go to them. Like, I wouldn't say I've ever been, like, truly afraid, but I've definitely been like, wow, if I was sitting in that section, I would be truly afraid. I mean, I've had a dude jump over me. Like, this is not as crazy as your story, Jake, but like a dude just jump over me and falcon punch somebody 2 rows in front of me. And they just started fucking throwing punches at each other in the crowd. Both WVU fans. That's how classy we are. And the cops run up and they're like beating the shit out of these. So there is definitely, you're spot on, Jake. There is like a culture of like violence, and I think largely because a lot of these games are surrounded by people getting extremely intoxicated, because it's sort of like tailgate culture. You don't, unless you're me and Ben at the finals, you don't hang out before an NBA game for 4 hours and get drunk before you go to the game, right? That's not really, it's like, hey, we got out of work, let's have 1 or 2 beers, then we'll head over to the stadium. Like football, part of going to the game is getting there multiple hours early, setting up, and getting it hammered drunk before you get to the stadium. And that's why this shit happens. It's great.
I know.
Great for most people who don't have a tendency for violence.
Exactly. Yeah. This is more of just like a microcosm of society. Like 95%, 99% of people that are tailgating and having a good time are having a good time, and that's it. It's just like the 1 in 100 people that ruin. I mean, dude, there were 2 people that got that are dead from the Detroit Lions game yesterday. They got shot. Like,
Wow.
That's the other part in America as well. This is like you got at least in Colorado, I think the gun laws are actually, I have no idea what the
I mean, well, Michigan probably has pretty legit gun laws, but Detroit is a city that's got some gun violence in it. I'll say that. I'll leave that politely. Yeah.
And so it's just scary.
Whoa.
And so I mean, like, thank God that's all that happened to Derek, really, like when we're talking about it. So you just wonder, like, he's got probably a little bit of an entourage. People start going back and forth, and like Derek's obviously the unassuming guy from our perspective, and like he is obviously, but man, he's like a straight up competitor. If you saw him, dude, like he got hit there, and then he like wearing terrible pants for fighting, which is like elastic shorts that it can like fall down. He's like got to pull his shorts up. He's like the classic, like, pull my shorts up, get ready for a fight stance. And I'm like, thank God that just people were like, get Derek White away from this situation. It felt like his wife came in there, which was probably good. And Bucket Hat man to the rescue. Bucket Hat, those guys typically index lower on the violence scale. So that's that's usually pretty good. Yeah. Jay King gets wasted for every Celtics game. That's a fact as well from Landon in the chat here.
Very professional. And then RJ in the chat as well. What was Dad White's reaction? We're not sure yet. We don't have a reaction from really anyone on an official basis. I haven't seen a tweet from Richard White, but I guess it was good to see Derek White sort of try and stand up for himself while simultaneously not really escalating the situation. No one really made a huge effort to simmer things down initially as well. So I guess the good takeaway is we can walk away. There's a bit of a TMZ report here, but nothing is probably going to come of it. Doesn't look like anyone sort of made much contact. Contact was made with Derek White's hat, and then things kind of simmered down from there. But it's interesting and noteworthy because he's probably the last person, Derek White, you'd expect to appear on a TMZ report about violence in any regard, but particularly at a college football game. So thought that was interesting.
I wish that Jalen was at this one now, because I know Jalen went to the game last year. Can you imagine if Jalen was there, dude?
Oh my God, dude.
Been training to fight Batman all off season, and he's like, that would have made everybody else look small if Jalen Brown was standing around.
I bet Baylor has thrown hands a few times in his day too, because he was with Baylor at the Nebraska game, buddy.
That's right.
Bet that country boy would have got in there and start throwing some haymakers.
Yeah, look, it'll be interesting to see if anything comes out of that. But in the meantime, let's move on to some other news. This coming out of the New York Post, reported by Josh Kozman. Report dispute between father-son Boston Celtics owners over team's massive payroll sparked sale. And again, this is reported by Josh Kozman of the New York Post. And check out the article because it's obviously pretty illustrative and informative. But one of the interesting quotes from the article, Irving Grossbeck, a 90-year-old Massachusetts-born entrepreneur who owns a controlling roughly 20% stake in the team, balked at funding big losses on the horizon from the massive contracts that helped the Celtics capture a record 18th championship back in June. Wick says we'll spend whatever it takes, but the dad, according to a source, wasn't into losing any more money. So interesting here, bit of finally a little extra news and context around what's going on with the sale and the purpose and the reasoning as to why this is going on. But guys, I don't know, I want to ask your takes. We're still, I think, largely at an uninformed standpoint here, but just a little bit more information to react to.
Clearly, Irving has plans for a very elaborate coffin.
Yeah.
Because,
Yes.
what are we doing here, man? I'm sorry, buddy. Like, you're probably not going to be around to pay this off. So, like, shouldn't it be your son making the long-term decisions for the team? But we talked about this before with him. It's just like mind-blowing that this man is trying to take every penny across the finish line with him. And this is just like another sort of data point on like how some of these ultra rich people think, and it makes no sense to me.
Yeah, dude. What are we doing, man? Like, your legacy could be the last dynasty of the NBA in this dumb new CBA parody era that Grant Williams negotiated, and instead we're gonna have to trade away freaking Kristaps Porzingis and Drew Holiday because you're not willing to pay a few extra shekels from the grave. It's really annoying, but it spawned one of like the funniest days on Twitter in a while. Like, we had probably since Jared Zero and the podcasting from the couch situation, and because now we are like operating in this funny in between zone where it's like, yeah, it'd be great if we could get Wick on the podcast, or like we're writing for Celtics blog or whatever. But like the jokes that are coming out about like Wick stealing his dad's credit card to pay for the Drew Holiday extension, like as if I've stolen my kids stealing their parents' credit card to pay for like NBA 2K tokens. It's just like, yeah, dude, I just signed another max contract for another elite role player. Sorry, Dad. And and that one's locked in. It's like like Logan Roy, stole a car and accidentally killed a waiter, but Wick, got high and then signed Kristaps Porzingis and traded for Drew Holiday.
Accidentally
extended. And Sam Hauser. Yeah, one more line, one more extension, baby. Let's go.
Whoa! The head snapped back and like all those like Tarantino
60,
films.
Sure. Give it to him.
Does this make
Lonnie
Wick,
Walker? Let's go.
This makes Wick more likable, right? Just the fact that he kind of sacrificed maybe some familial relationships and cordiality by spending some of that credit there in the case of Irv Grauspec. But I don't know, like, does this speculatively devalue the franchise if there's a worry internally from the current owners that it's not a valuable asset in that it's losing money quite rapidly? Does that actually hurt the potential sale value of the team? Because surely the new TV deal solves for some of this. And the fact that they bought the team for roughly $350 million, it's now valued at approximately $6 billion. Like, have you really lost anything as an asset owner despite the current losses?
I would say quite the opposite. You have gained approximately $5.5 billion on this. So, it doesn't make sense. I do not think it will have any impact on the value of the Celtics, though. If anything, I bet you people are going to be like, now's the time to buy this team. Yes, they will be super expensive luxury tax wise, but they're going to be super good for an extremely long amount of time in a market that completely prints money, in a league whose revenues have been skyrocketing basically for the last 25 years and don't look to be slowing down, and are about to sign the biggest TV contract outside of the NFL basically ever. Like, this is a pretty good time. Like, $6 billion, hey, that might be a deal in 10 years from now, right? So I don't think this will matter. I think people will be like, oh, his dad is being short-sighted. And, we're not worried about, he's like losing the forest for the trees a little bit. And Wick is the one who stands to lose a lot of money that he also stands to inherit. And the fact he's like, spend it all, baby, I don't care, I think just goes to show how much money they've made on the deal long term and how much value there still is to extract from an asset like the Celtics. Yeah,
dude, just pay it and just live knowing that the Celtics is one of the crown jewel franchises in the world, not just the NBA. Yeah. Like, we talked about that, the Bill Simmons podcast. Like, they are like the leprechaun is global. It's a prestige worldwide logo. Like, that thing is worth billions. And like the team is the expansion's coming as well. There's going to be 2 new franchises. Like, I don't know why they don't just do that now. I don't know if they're waiting for like the new TV deal to kind of like kick in, but that's going to be like another $300-400 million per owner alone, and that covers all of your luxury tax for the season that everybody's worried about, the 25-26 season. It's so obvious that you can make that money back so easily.
Yeah.
Like to worry about 1 year or 2 years where you're operating at like a loss when, as you said, the value of the franchise and then the revenue that you've made in all the other years when you weren't paying luxury tax. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, and for expansion, like you said, the money certainly seems to be there. The talent is certainly there. And speaking of talent, when we come back, the Sam Hauser deep dive. But first, here's a word from our good friends over at Factor Meals.
So about a year ago, a big cold box was delivered to my front door. It turns out my wife had decided to order Factor. It was one of the best decisions she's made. The first meal I had was like this chili mac and cheese, and I've been hooked ever since. It's absolutely delicious. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals. Make today the day you kickstart a new healthy routine. What are you waiting for? Treat yourself to restaurant quality meals that feature premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, and blackened salmon. Keep kitchen time to a minimum. Factor meals are ready in 2 minutes. No shopping, prepping, cooking, or cleaning up. Enjoy effortless support for your lifestyle. Choose from 6 menu preferences to help you manage calories, maximize protein intake, avoid meat, which is not my selection, but some people do enjoy that, or simply eat well balanced. Head to factormeals.com/floor50 and use code FLOOR50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code FLOOR50, floor50 at factormeals.com/floor50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active.
That's high praise. Factor Meals, tried and tested by the Spoonie family, and it's got the Spoonie stamp of approval. We've got our own code there, floor50, to get 50% off that first box, and I believe 20 or 25% off your second box. So definitely check that out and use that code floor50. Let our sponsors know, that you love us, you love their products, and that we're worthy of their partnership. We'd really appreciate it. Now, the Sam Hauser deep dive. Best backup wing in the NBA? Who's to say? Maybe we'll have the answer at the end of this segment, Jake. What do you got for us?
So things haven't gone perfect, but now that we've won the title in the past 7 years, you can't really have drawn it up any better. Jason Tatum, ceiling outcome, 3 first-team All-NBA selections by the time he turns 26. Jaylen Brown, hoping he turns into a productive wing, now like a surefire top 15 player in the NBA. You trade for Derek White. Does he, find himself, go to a new level when he comes to the Boston Celtics around these guys? Turns into a fringe all-star. Is Al Horford able to, maintain his play into the twilight of his career? Yeah, he just had his 2 best shooting seasons of his career. Things have been going quite well for the Celtics, and I see no reason why that would not continue. And I think it's time to plant the flag on Sam Hauser. And I think it's Sam Hauser's time to become the role player that everybody wishes they had. Because at this point in the modern NBA, he does everything that you need to win at a high level. And we saw it in the finals for him to hold up defensively in a way that when we were talking about him at Summer League that I'm not sure we could even have comprehended. But where he's cut to today, along with being like literally one of the best shooters in the NBA, where do we go from here? I'm starting to get that feeling.
Yeah, Spoonie, I'd be curious to hear your take on this, because that was my initial thoughts while I was trying to evaluate Sam Hauser for this segment. Is we love Sam Hauser. We're ready to plant our flag on Sam Hauser Island, make this the year of Sam Hauser fandom and really get behind him. We have other players to lesser success, like Walshy last year, for example. We're feeling good about getting on Hauser Island this year. But where do you think Hauser can go from here, Spoonie? We know he's very established as a great off-the-bench role player. He really put that on display in the playoffs, particularly in the finals, defending Luka Doncic and shooting the lights out. But now, where can he go from here? How can he improve?
So, okay, I think I'm going to be sort of the Debbie Downer little bit in this episode, because I'm not sure Sam really has a lot of places he can go in his game from where he is right now, right? He's already 26. I was watching some of the Sam Hauser drives to the rim today and driving closeouts. It's not exactly dynamic when he puts the ball on the floor. It's almost like the defense is more confused than anything, and he kind of can use that to his advantage. But that said, he has become, I think, an even more elite shooter than he was when he entered the NBA. And that's kind of nutty because he was already almost a perfect shooter. The no dip three we saw a couple times in the playoffs, if he builds on that even more and gets that release even quicker, and he really grew as a movement shooter over the last like 18 months or so. That was something I knocked him for a couple years ago, is that he was basically just a standstill 3-point shooter in the NBA. That is not the case anymore. He can come flying off a pin down screen, get squared, and fire away. And it's probably going in. He was one of the most efficient players off screens in the entire NBA last year. I'm just not sure I see a ton more offensive upside other than him becoming like Kyle Korver that one year he shot like 52%, which would obviously be incredible and be amazing. And I think he's good enough that he could have an expanded role. I'm not sure the Celtics are the team where he will really see that. But I think he's probably better than a 20-minute per game guy right now. But he's probably not going to really get there on the Celtics, but that's okay because he's really good and he's really awesome still.
Yeah. So I'm not sure it's necessarily about him taking like this crazy leap into like being this on ball creator or whatever like that. I guess more saying like he deserves his flowers and recognition as one of the league's best role players. Because I don't think that the rest of the NBA or fans fully grasped just how good Sam Hauser was last year. And I do think you're right on it, Spoonie. He played 22 minutes a game last year, 15 minutes a game in the playoffs. Can he move up into 25, 26, 27, 28 minutes per game on this team? O'Shea Brissett is out the door. Obviously, we've talked about whether Baylor Scheinman or Walsh, but like Hauser increasing his minutes load and developing and maybe weaponizing what he's currently already incredible at is where I see the development in. So, there's the secondary playmaking that you've seen Duncan Robinson kind of develop over the last couple of years, like coming off those handoffs, and people are so terrified of his shooting that now he's running a little pick and roll with the play that comes to mind more than any other play is in the finals game. I want to say game 5. He runs a little like side pick and roll with Drew Holiday and finds him on a little bounce pass. Like he's got nice passing instincts, got really good feel for the game. And then the other piece of it, we'll get to the mid range. Just when people start closing out on him harder and harder, like just pump fake. We don't need to go all the way to the rim. Can we just pull up and shoot from there? But like what he is right now is already incredible. And like, even if he didn't really get markedly better, I think that he's already one of the best role players in the NBA and a player that like is just perfect for the modern day NBA. Like, so I had a look at, so I signed up for StatHead recently and it's, you can just, the filters are so much fun, but they've got per 75 possessions, which is fun because that's a little more similar to like a game. And so per 75 possessions, minimum 750 minutes played, Sam Hauser shot 9.9 3-pointers per game, which is 9th in the NBA among all players. You've got like the classics like Dame and Steph and Clay, like some of those guys ahead of him. Lonnie Walker was actually 7th in the NBA. And the more you kind of get through the offseason, you start looking at stats, you start to see the vision with Lonnie. It's like, oh, is he turning Lonnie Walker into like this hyper athlete? Dante DiVincenzo type guy. Question for another day potentially, but ahead of Trey Murphy, ahead of Bogdanovich, ahead of Buddy Hield, guys you think of as being like flamethrower, crazy quick trigger guys. Hauser shot more threes per like 75 possessions than all of those guys, and was well above all of them in 3-point percentage as well. So like shooting alone, like he was, just like straight up one of the best shooters in the NBA.
Yeah, he's going to go down as one of the best shooters ever. Sorry, go ahead, Ben.
No, you're absolutely right. He absolutely like leaps off the page in efficiency across the league last year. And this isn't even like honing in on a particular shot type, but 1.28 points per shot attempt, good for 94th percentile per cleaning the glass. But then diving into the synergy stuff, spot up shooting, coming off screens, pick and pop, all around, all of those shot types, 90th percentile, or averaging around the 90th percentile. And we always harp on about like thematically what's good about the Celtics, especially their bench rotation, shooting with size. And Sam Hauser is maybe, at least coming off the bench, like the epitome of that like player archetype. He's come a long way as far as his lateral quickness and his ability to like stay in front of guys, and really like the things that like there's plenty of good shooters in the league. So many of them can't keep themselves on the court throughout the course of a playoff game or a playoff series or even an important game during the regular season because they get played off the court defensively. And Sam Hauser's really put in the hard yards on that front to hold the value of his shooting by not giving it up on the defensive end, which is such an impressive, growth for someone of his origin story of, coming into the league undrafted and going into this year just $2 million on the cap sheet, and then his next contract starts the year after. So efficiency on all fronts, including from a financial standpoint, which I think is an awesome tidbit. But we should get to RJ's super chat here. And RJ, thanks for the super chat, man. Really appreciate it. Do you think teams will devote more film study to Sam Hauser this year that might restrict his progress some? Which I think is a really interesting alternate angle of where we were going of, can he improve? How will he improve? Could it go the other way, more to Spoonie's point, where teams are going to be more honed into what he's doing this year, Jake?
Well, I think this is how players get better. Like, they move higher up the scouting report. Jason Tatum becomes the guy, and Kemba's knee kind of falls apart in the 2020 bubbles, and Tatum has to be the lead player. And it's like all of a sudden, oh my God, Tatum's like this point forward because he has no choice but to be the point forward. And so I do think that's how you get better and I do think he'll be, I'm not sure you can move him up the scouting report how much higher can you put him in the chapters that Ben's been talking about on the scouting report? Like, who are you going to put him ahead? Not Tatum, not Jalen, not KP, not Derek, not Drew, maybe ahead of Horford. But like, okay, now he's sixth. He's the sixth chapter on the scouting report. And we'll talk about the mid-range shooting now, maybe like that's the step. If they're going to be so honed in on making sure he can't get 3-pointers off, then you just got to drive that closeout. Maybe not go all the way to the rim, but take those mid-range pull-ups. And on the year, he was 52.6% in the mid-range, 10 for 19, and in the playoffs he was 71.4%, 5 for 7. But similar to how I talked about how I want Pritchard taking like that TJ McConnell fadeaway, I have no reason to believe that Hauser wouldn't be excellent at like 1 dribble, 2 dribble, mid-range pull-ups off a closeout. Like, if you're a shooter, you're a shooter. So I think that that's something that he can get better at. You want him to get as many threes up as possible, though, obviously.
Yeah. To
ahead,
RJ's point, really quick, or rather to your point, Jake, to RJ's question, it doesn't matter what you try to do to Sam Hauser, because if you close out hard, like you already know that's what you have to do to him, and then he can just take 1 dribble and move the ball, and then you're fucked because you're in rotation, and you're in rotation against the Boston Celtics, and no team has been better at destroying teams when they're in rotation than this version of the Celtics. So yeah, teams will figure out his strengths and weaknesses better. They maybe already have. That probably happened last season. It just doesn't matter with this team construction. There's just no way to stop Sam Hauser unless you want to watch the Jays go for, 60 combined against you every night. I'll take, Sam Hauser maybe not making 5 of 8 threes for a night over letting the Jays basically walk to the rim because I'm putting myself in rotation to take Sam Hauser's shot away, So I think, yeah, teams probably know what he can and cannot do, but it doesn't matter because of how this team is built. Yeah, I think my concern is the volume. And he had way more than 19 opportunities to step into mid-range jumpers last season. 19 is insane. He played 1,700 minutes. He took 1 midi per 100 minutes last year. That is an absurdly low number. So I want to kind of look at it more, but I wonder if when he pump fakes and drives the closeout. He doesn't go all the way to the rim basically ever. That's okay. He's fine with the mid-range, but I wonder if like just length in front of him deters him from even taking that shot, and then he's just got to move the ball. And that's okay because he is a good ball mover and he is really smart. He almost reminds me of like a Cornet type of passer where it's just like the correct decision made at the right time every time. But I mean, if he's not going to be willing to take them, even if it's not like a wide open mid-range jumper, and it felt like he started to a little bit. He has like a couple like fadeaways that he made that seems kind of crazy, but I just wonder if it's like kind of a confidence thing for him, or if the team's telling him not to do that. Like drive the closeout. If it's not there, move the ball and we'll try and get a 3 or get all the way to the rim.
Yeah, it is pretty small sample size on those mid-range attempts. And one of the key commonalities I think we've identified in doing these player deep dives is that we've got this sort of great subset of backup bench players, Cornet and Cater, recent examples, who have identified what they're really good at, and they sort of stay within that narrow focus, and they don't really deviate outside of that. And one of the takeaways from the deep dives on those players was that that's probably where they should stay. We haven't really identified a skill set that would help them break out of that mold. With Sam Hauser, I'm not totally convinced that he shouldn't explore the mid-range side of things more. And I've got a couple of clips here which just got to put on his display from a shot versatility standpoint, as I've somehow shrunk the video here. But he's coming in here from the corner with a floater. He's pump faking the defender out of the way, pulling up at the free throw line for a mid-range jumper, splash. And then we see him in transition with the defense, crossover again, finish at the rim, oversized.
Suggs.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like, obviously, this is one small sample size, and those are only 3 possessions, but he has put on display some ability there, which I think differentiates him from some of the player deep dives we've done already, where it does seem like there's an additional skill set that could be uncovered here. Or am I just completely like off on stranded on Sam Hauser Island at this point?
I do think that's the thing. I don't really want him taking more mid-range jump shots unless he has to. Like, I want him taking more 3-point shots.
Sure.
That's what I want him doing. But like, as we said, like if teams are going to be like flying out on him more and staying home on other guys, like maybe he's going to have to take more of those mid-range jumpers. But I'm not sure. Here's the thing. Looking forward past this season, past next season, in a world where Wick's dad, figures out his, password and changes his password to the Boston Celtics, cap sheet, and Wick's not able to access it and just hands out contracts whenever he wants to. There's a world where like the starting lineup is Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Derek White, Sam Hauser, and Xavier Tillman, for example. Like there's a world where I think that's very possible. And so I think leaning into what Sam Hauser can unlock and develop, like just exploring what he can develop in this upcoming season, when you've got the championship in your back pocket, I feel like it gives you a little more freedom to explore some of this stuff. And I do think you want to have one eye on the future a little bit. And I think there's potentially minutes for him to play a bit more and to explore some of this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, that's a great point about the title. It's like the regular season is kind of gravy for this version of the Celtics. Like, we obviously want them to take it seriously, and I don't think Joe Mazzulla is the type of guy to let them not take it seriously. But it's also when you expand your game, when you try and push the boundaries of what you can do. And I want to see Hauser, at least in the regular season, or at least some of those games. Yeah, like you said, Jake, if there's a game even where like Jalen's missing a week or something for management, or because they just want to give him a couple games off, like pump fake and put it on the deck, man. Like I have some driving stats for Sam Hauser. He was 299th in the league in total drives this year, 69 drives in 1,700 minutes.
Nice.
11 players played at least 1,700 minutes and had 100 drives or fewer. 10 of them are centers, and 1 is Sam Hauser, right? So, like, do it, man. Like, maybe you're bad at it. The efficiency on the mid-range or in the restricted area may come down because he's doing it more often. But, like, that's the only way to really improve that skill set. That's the only way to get comfortable. Like, put the ball on the deck a little bit. Like, if we're playing Charlotte, like, go for it, man. I want to see you take like 4 drives that game. Like, why not? We know you can shoot. We know your shooting's going to show up, and we know that's fine, and we know what you can do. So it's the same thing we said for Pritchard. It's like, expand the wings a little bit in the regular season, see what's out there, and it helps the team build long-term and plan long-term because this salary is going to be so out of control. We may have to dump some talent, or guys are going to retire eventually, right? Like, Drew is not super young. So
Drew, sure.
Al's never retiring.
Yeah. Okay.
Young, sprightly Al.
The wings. Yeah, right.
Look, we've got so much more to get to on Sam Hauser. We just love this guy. But first, a live ad read from Spoonie here. We're doing it live. Haven't got the pre-recording. This one's for our friends over at GameTime.
Alrighty, West Virginia University football just lost an absolute heartbreaker to our biggest rival, University of Pittsburgh, on this last Saturday. That just means WVU's primed to make a comeback this season. I'll be using GameTime to go to the next WVU game and watch them make their way to the Big 12 title, hopefully. GameTime has this new feature called GameTime Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. GameTime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. GameTime's not just great for sports. I was looking at tickets for one of my favorite brands, Lake Street Dive, who's playing in Pittsburgh in October. Super easy. Jumped on GameTime, typed in the band name, found the show. They had a super deal on floor tickets that actually made them cheaper than general admission. One of my favorite features, too, is the all-in pricing that you can toggle on, which shows you the full price of the ticket before you go to checkout. No surprise fees at checkout. And definitely check out those GameTime picks. They curate the events to make it easier for you to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download GameTime today. What time is it? Game time. Woo!
Love that new read.
GameTime.
Yeah.
All right, Jake, where else do you want to take this?
Cool. So, okay. We got 2 questions here. And Eric Weiss in the chat before was like, he needs to show a more consistent drive game to reach starter level. So I think we'll start here. Spoonie, you've got a list for us. I'll throw it to you.
I do. Okay.
Which
So
backup wings? Yeah, go.
I did not just do backup wings
Okay,
because I feel like there's very few and far between that Sam Hauser is better than. So I think, like, if we're thinking long term,
Better than or
maybe
worse than?
He's better than most backup wings in the NBA, I think, right? So here's a collection of very good backup wings and some starters. Is he better than DeAndre Hunter? Now,
Awesome.
DeAndre, 15.6, 4 rebounds, 1.5 assists. Hawks were 1.1 points per better with him on the court than off. Shot 38.5% from 3 on good volume, 59.5 true shooting. Sam was at 62.9 true shooting, but which is a ridiculous number. But is he better than starting wing DeAndre Hunter?
DeAndre Hunter stinks, dude. He's like one of he's like one of the most disappointing players to come out of the draft and sign a big contract in recent memory. Like, this is an example of a guy that maybe does a few things in theory better than Hauser. In theory, DeAndre Hunter was supposed to be like this elite. He's supposed to be Jaylen Brown. That was like the ceiling outcome. Not a good, like, he's a fine shooter, not a high volume shooter for how many minutes he plays. Defensively, so disappointing. How many times have we played the Hawks and had not even noticed DeAndre Hunter guarding the Jays? Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, but if Sam Hauser was guarding the Jays, how would he, like, that's also part of it too, is we are filtering through like these wings not being able to guard the Jays. Like that's like the hardest version of the test too, you know?
Who can guard Luka Doncic better? DeAndre Hunter or Sam Hauser?
While just cashing threes on the other end as well.
That's the thing. Like, you flip it on the offensive end, like, Sam Hauser is far more valuable offensively than DeAndre Hunter.
Also, do you know what DeAndre Hunter makes this year, this upcoming season?
That's
21.6 mil.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But
that's a lot.
That's
crazy.
When you add that, it's not even close.
Okay.
When you add that, it's not even close.
What
I agree.
Can you make a case for the opposite of that, Spoonie?
Well, I think Hunter's got a more varied offensive game. He almost 60% true shooting and a dude that can put it on the floor a little bit, although I don't really trust him to do that very often. He can't really run a pick and roll either. And his shooting has come along as he's been in the NBA, like 39% on like okay volumes, not bad. He's a big wing. I think he's a better defender than the Celtics make him look. I will say that he's definitely a disappointing defender because people were talking about him like, oh, he's going to be the next Iguodala on deep. That is not the case, but he is a solid defensive big wing that averaged 15.5 points per game on good efficiency. Like that, like you hear that in a vacuum. That's probably worth $20 million, right?
Can another counter, not a dog. So he's playing 29 minutes. He's like the opposite of a dog, 29 and a half minutes a game, 4 rebounds, 3.9 rebounds as a 6'8" athletic wing. Sam Hauser played 22 minutes a game and averaged 3.5 rebounds. He's a legitimately good rebounder and like a dog, and like he's like here to fucking play. DeAndre Hunter, get him off my team, dude.
I agree. I'm with you. I'm with you on DeAndre Hunter. Okay. I think this is a very obvious name. You guys, I'm sure, probably knew this one's going to come up. Duncan Robinson, 13 points a game, 2.5 rebounds, 2.8 assists. And that's the big thing for Duncan that came along this year is kind of this tertiary playmaking. I think he's just more dynamic with the ball in his hands, with his like goofy handoff game that he runs with Bam. That is like really difficult to stop. The Heat, 3.4 points per 100 worse with Duncan Robinson on. Shot 39.5% from 3 on good volume, 61.2% true shooting. He's shown that he can put it on the floor a little bit, more than Hauser certainly, and pick out a pass here and there, even though that is not the foundation of his game. I think the other side is the problem for Duncan Robinson, though. But go ahead, Jake.
No, you got it. Robinson's really impressed me as far as he's developed offensively. Like he was just kind of similar to Hauser, and that's why I wonder if Hauser was given some of those opportunities. Could he do something similar in the pick and roll game with like Bam Adebayo, like Bam setting those moving screens, teams are freaking out, trying to stop the Duncan Robinson 3-point shot, and he's just got this wide open lane to the rim, and then Bam rolls, and it makes the job easy. But that's because he's weaponizing his elite shooting. But yeah, you have to give Duncan Robinson the edge there, just because we haven't seen Hauser do that consistently. But defensively, there's such a massive gap between those guys. Like Robinson is a real negative on that end, and we tiptoed around it, I think, for a long time on this show with Hauser being like, is he a good defender? Can we say he's good, or can we just say I think I'm at a place where I'm like, I'm confident. He's a good defender. And especially in the playoffs when like guys are going to get attacked in isolation, he's going to make you work. And he's just got the size. Like in Duncan Robinson's a little smaller, like girthiness, we'll call it. And Hauser can take some bumps and mix it up a little bit in a way that Duncan Robinson cannot and does not.
Yeah, I might just be the wrong person to like partake in this conversation. So I'm just going to say Sam Hauser every time, but like I feel like I'm a little crazy that I want to choose Sam Hauser over Duncan Robinson. It just simply goes back to what I was saying before, that Hauser is less likely to be played off the floor in the playoffs due to his somewhat defensive prowess.
Yeah, I think on a worse team, you might be able to make the argument Duncan Robinson has more value because you might need more of his secondary playmaking than you do on the Celtics, but Duncan's like not the type of shooter Sam is even at this point, which is pretty crazy because he's an incredible shooter. Kyle Anderson, like, couldn't be a more different player. 6.4 points, 3.5 rebounds, 4.2 assists. T-Wolves were 1.6 points per 100 worse with Kyle Anderson on the court. He shot 22.9% from 3, 51.3% true shooting. Obviously, Anderson's an excellent defensive player, better defensive player than Sam. I think we can all agree to that. But I think this one, I think I know where I land on this one. I'm interested to hear what you guys think.
This one's hard. I really like Kyle Anderson. Like I really like slow-mo. I think as well. I think using like the context of the best role for all of these players on a championship team is the way I'm thinking of it. Right. So like 6th, 7th man on a championship team. Who is the perfect right there? Maybe in a vacuum, I might have to like Kyle Anderson can scale up in a way that Sam Hauser can't. Like, you can ask Kyle Anderson to have the ball in his hands quite a bit and do a bunch of different stuff. Whew. And defensively, he's really solid. But man, the shooting is just so valuable in a way that obviously Kyle Anderson has none of. I'm interested to see what Kyle Anderson looks like on the Warriors, because I think that offensively in the Timberwolves, everything was so cramped with Rudy Gobert out there as well at times.
Yeah, Kyle Anderson
man.
can make stuff happen, right? Off the dribble, he can sort of dictate the offense, play make a little bit. He's more capable individually, I think, but we have to look at this through the context of the Celtics, and you touched on it, Jake, like as far as like what their role would be on a given team. And this is a Celtics podcast, we're looking at it through the Celtics lens. If we lost Sam Hauser and replaced him with Kyle Anderson on this team with these players, I think we would be worse off. I think we highly value Sam Hauser's skill set on this team compared to that of Kyle Anderson. But this is the first name that I think has really made it more of a complicated ask of us to react to, because Kyle Anderson does bring a lot more to the table than everyone else we've brought up so far.
Yeah, I am kind of not a huge fan. I just hate guys who can't shoot. Like, it's really hard to be a good wing.
Damn, you would hate me.
Cannot shoot. Yeah, well, I hate myself too. But and like, he just cannot shoot. He had that 1 year where he shot like 36%, and people are like, "Oh, maybe." Absolutely not. Shot 23% from three this year. Like, that's just terrible. You can scheme around dudes like that. You can't really scheme around Hauser on this Celtics team. So I think the Celtics absolutely, unquestionably get worse with Kyle Anderson instead of Sam Hauser. I think in a vacuum, I think Kyle Anderson's probably a better basketball player than Sam Hauser, but I'm not sure that really matters. So, all right.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jake.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I think that's a great way to put it, which is a good cop-out answer. I think, Kyle Anderson's like probably better if you're ranking just NBA players, but I mean, Kyle Anderson and then Hauser as a 6th, 7th man on a championship team is way more valuable.
Yeah, for sure. The last one, I think this is the only guy who is clearly better than Sam Hauser. Trey Murphy, 15 a game, 5 boards, 2.2 assists. The Pels were 5.1 points per 100 better with Trey Murphy on the court, 38% from three on really good volume, 61.2 true shooting percentage, which tells me he's also finishing around the rim. He's just more dynamic on ball. He's bigger than Sam Hauser. I don't know if he's a better on-ball defender than Sam Hauser is, but I do think he's a more destructive off-ball guy, and he kind of does what Sam does offensively with a more varied game. So I don't really think this one's too close, but I would love to hear if you guys disagree.
This would be my white whale when it comes to Sam Hauser this season. It's like, because like Trey Murphy is the guy that everybody loves, and for good reason, because like he's got range too. Like, he will shoot from the logo, quick trigger. Percentage wise though, what he was at, like 38%, I think, last year.
38.
So,
yep.
So like, and again, this is on high volume, high difficulty, but so is Sam Hauser. So like, I definitely give the shooting edge to Hauser. Defensively, this is where I'm not going to pretend like I really am incredibly well versed in Trey Murphy's like off ball ability defensively, but again, if I'm going to use my who's got a better chance of guarding Luka Doncic barometer, I'm giving the edge to Sam Hauser. I think so Trey Murphy was 77% from the restricted area this year, past season. So like, when he talk about weaponizing Sam Hauser's shooting and getting to the mid-range, because we're a little unsure of whether or not he can finish at the rim, Trey Murphy's like posterizing people and like throwing down like some of the league's most insane dunks. And so the ability to have that athleticism coming off shooting from like 30 plus feet, that's like almost like a court warping type of offensive player. So yeah, I can't quite get there, but I'm like open to the idea if Sam Hauser can get a little of this Duncan Robinson development going, a little mid-range, like when you add that to the elite shooting and the isolation defense, which is so valuable in the playoffs, I can start to construct a case. We're not there yet, though.
Let me tell you guys. I'm not going to be the person to tell you that Sam Hauser is better than Trey Murphy because I don't believe it. I can't get there as much as I would like to somehow finagle some sort of justification. Folks in the chat or in the comments later, let us know why you think Sam Hauser is better than Trey Murphy the third. If you do, is Trey Murphy going to be coming off the bench this year? Because he's certainly talent-wise. I've just been scrolling through his synergy profile as well, and defensively is really where he jumps off the page compared to Hauser. He just has a very good to excellent points per possession rating defensively across a multitude of stat categories, which is far and away different to that of Sam Hauser. As much as we love the guaranteed, if Sam Hauser puts up a three, it's going to go in sort of quality of a player, Trey Murphy is just killing Hauser in multiple facets of the game. So you can't make the case. That's where it ends. That ends the argument.
Is he going to start? Who the hell knows what New Orleans is doing, man?
Yeah.
I don't even
Daniel Tice is going to start.
Yeah.
I mean,
he should,
He's their, one of their best players. So he should be a starter, which would remove him from this category. But yeah, that's the white whale of backup wings currently that I think has the belt right now.
I think we can put out the necessary good vibes to help sort of lift Hauser to that, sort of cosmically speaking. I think we have that ability. We're starting today. Maybe not doing the best job, but it's early days. Any other names you got for us, Spoonie, before we get onto some other stuff?
Not really. Chat had a few interesting ones, like Lou Dort starts, but they're just opposite players. I know Lou Dort shot 39% from three this year, but that shit's fake as hell. I'm sorry. That's not real.
Yeah. That was why they got screwed in the playoffs, because the Mavs were like, we don't believe that you're a real shooter. And they dared him to shoot, and they tanked their offense.
Yeah, and he's an incredible defensive player, but maybe he's got a little more off the bounce than Hauser does, but I'm not sure how much of that's real either. So I think you could make it, they're complete polar opposite players in a lot of ways, because Dort's all athleticism. I think, you could make a case that Hauser's better than Lou Dort, certainly for this Celtics team.
Yeah, dude.
Dean Wade.
Dean Wade, great player, underrated player. He's better than he's the actualized version of Dean Wade. Yeah. Dean Wade's more of a bruising wing. He just
big.
It looks like he should be just an elite shooter for something, this way that he looks.
Can't imagine why.
Yeah. and so you get a little typecast, but he's kind of more like a dirty work type wing, which is what the Cavs were really missing, honestly, in that playoff series. But that's a good one. But yeah, Spoon, if you don't have any other ones that jump off the page, an interesting one I threw out to Twitter is how many teams is Sam Hauser starting for? And a lot of these backup, Trey Murphy would be starting on a lot of these teams as well. Who's starting for the Nuggets? Christian Brown or Sam Hauser? Hauser.
Is Brown a little sort of quicker, quick-footed, better lateral quickness, can get around? One of the major weaknesses on Hauser, at least defensively, is he gets caught up on screens and handoffs. Can Christian Brown handle himself better in that sense? Maybe start over Hauser? Or am I overthinking?
Christian Brown's a better defensive player. I think that's pretty easy. Hauser's got more size defensively to hold up in maybe some bigger matchups, but offensively, especially going into this next season where they don't have KCP anymore, the Nuggets were last in 3-point attempts last year, and that's something that they at some point is not going to be tenable, especially when you lose KCP. I think Sam Hauser on a Jokic offense would be just absurd. It would be completely unfair. You talk about running the handoff game. Jokic would have Hauser running the most insane stuff and popping for three. It would be a no-brainer. So Nuggets is easy for me. Bucks, is he not starting over Gary Trent or because that's basically who it's going to be, right? So
I have a confession to make. I'm a Gary Trent guy. I think he's good.
Yeah,
I like him too.
Yeah, so I think his shot he kind of lost his shot a little bit last year. I might be just making that up. He was on the Raptors, so who cares? He shot 39% on 6 attempts a game, so his shot didn't go anywhere. He looked disengaged defensively last season, but I think he's a better defensive player than he showed last year. He's certainly considerably more athletic than Sam Hauser. He can put it on the floor a little bit too. That's certainly not a strength of his game. He's super inefficient from 2-point range too. But man, Sam would be so deadly playing off of Giannis. You know what I mean? It's like any team with like insane gravity, Sam is just gonna be like he's a force multiplier for them. In a way, I'm not sure somebody like Gary Trent, who's a great shooter, but like Sam is a next level elite shooter, and there's a difference in way defenses react to that.
Cavs, who's he starting over Max Strus?
That's a good one, actually. I don't know, man.
Because Strus has a lot more of that like wiggle off the bounce handoff stuff, which I thought provided a lot of value for those guys. But again, much better shooter and a better defender. Like Sam's just big. Like the game that with the points that are scored in the sky, Sam Hauser being 6'8" is like has an advantage over someone like Gary Trent, Max Strus. I think that's close. You might, because Strus isn't that tall. And so you end up with a Mitchell, Garland, and Strus. They're all kind of like undersized, really. So I think you could make the argument for Hauser, but I'm not sure the Cavs are making that deal. He's starting for the Lakers.
Over Rui?
Over Rui easily.
Yeah.
They need shooting so badly. And Rui's not even good at defending either.
Yeah.
He looks like he just like looks like he should be good. He's like he's like DeAndre Hunter. He's just like looks like he should be awesome, but he's just not. Sixers, is he starting over Caleb Martin, or whoever they're starting at the 3 spot?
Yes, absolutely.
Easily.
Yeah, probably. Yeah,
I think
I
so.
don't know. Yeah,
Like,
probably.
Because as much as they want to talk about spreading the ball around, like it's going to be Maxey, Paul George, and Embiid with the ball in their hands, and everyone else is going to be catch and shoot guys. Like Caleb Martin, they don't really need, and like Hauser can keep your offense moving in a way that that is totally fine. Mavs, Klay Thompson, Sam Hauser.
Oh shit! Yeah,
That's
I mean,
spicy.
probably. Maybe that's easily answered after 2 weeks of Klay on the Mavs, when we see how he looks.
It's easy. It's Sam Hauser, obviously.
Oh shit! Sorry. Clippers?
Yeah. I don't even know who's on that team anymore.
Amir Coffey is starting.
Yeah.
Terrence Mann is starting.
Probably.
I think he starts over those guys.
He's probably. Yeah. This is right. Let's go, DJ Daniel. This is the time. This is the homer part of the stream right here. He should start for the Suns, but they probably wouldn't. But they're tiny. The Grizzlies, that's a tricky one because it's probably Marcus, Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr., Edie, but they desperately need shooting. And I feel like he might actually work his way into like one of their best lineups. But that's kind of, and then I just didn't do all the like bad teams because he would start on a lot of bad teams. But those were, he's good at basketball, man.
Would he start over Keldon Johnson on the Spurs, given what they need?
I don't think so.
I don't even know.
That's
One of
really good. Come on,
it's one of those.
right?
I just thought I'd put it out there. Slide
All right,
the note
fair
under the
enough,
door. See if I get an answer.
Would he start over Neesmith?
Oh man, he would shoot so many threes. I mean, Neesmith shot 45% from 3 last year. If that's real,
Did he really?
yeah.
Yeah.
Did he?
Didn't
He
feel
ended
like
up
it.
maintaining that to the end.
It was something crazy like that.
It was something really good. So if he's able to maintain that, that's probably
42.
we didn't. Okay, yeah. Like if that's real, then yeah, that's that. Michael Spitzer. I'm pretty sure you're actually the one who put it in my Twitter comments. Is how many teams does Hauser start on, and which led to this. So thank you for that. But
Every team but the Celtics.
Every
We're
yeah.
the only team good enough he can't start for.
Yeah, Thunder obviously over Lou Dort, maybe Jalen Williams as well. Like,
Can we get to this as well? Because this guy, Sam Hauser, it's nickname city over here. We got House Money, House Party, House Arrest, House Trap, Slam Hauser, Sammy Buckets. Can we say he's making a house call, like coming off the bench?
Sure.
At House of Pain as well, which I don't think he's hit he hit someone with a really hard screen yet, but we're waiting on House of Pain if that does happen.
Right.
Folks in the chat, let us know which nickname you want us to incept into Drew Carter's mind on the podcast before the season starts.
let's go. I mean, Sammy Buckets is probably the one I just like use the most when I'm like watching the games, but House Trap might be my favorite.
I do like House Arrest. Yeah.
I'm partial to House Money just because I feel like Joe, our compatriot in podcasting, came up with it. He was at least first to it, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So
I feel like he came
partial
with
to
all of
that
them.
one. Yeah.
All right. Before we go though, I also wanted to compare Hauser to 6th/7th men on championship teams of years past, and I think like his perfect comp is kind of like Danny Green. from the Lakers, the Spurs, and the Raptors. Danny Green played a lot more minutes on those teams, but he was like 8 points a game for the Lakers, 7 points a game for the Spurs, 9 points a game for the Spurs, 8 points a game for the Lakers. Hauser was like 5-6 points a game for the Celtics and only 15 minutes. Mike Miller, the 11/12 Miami Heat, 16 minutes a game, 5 points per game, 2.5 rebounds, like almost identical stats to Sam Hauser. Shane Battier, the year after that, a little more defensive oriented, but like 17 minutes a game, 4.7 points. Peja Stojakovic on the 2011 Mavs, 18 minutes a game, 7 points a game, 37.7% from three. He like fits the mold of like a ton of these guys that played like anywhere between 15 to 20 minutes. Richard Jefferson for the Cavs as well. Obviously not perfect like for some of these, but like 15 to 20 minutes a game gives you like good defense, solid shooting. Like every team would want this guy.
Yeah, like the power of shooting compels you. Like it's insane how powerful his shooting is. And like he's a better shooter than all of these guys, bar maybe Mike Miller or Peja in their primes. But by the time, I mean, I guess that old Mike Miller season, he was pretty money from three. But like, I don't recall Peja on the Mavs ever like getting hot in a quarter. I'm sure it happened, but Sam's just an absolutely absurd shooter, and that's so valuable. And like he fits the mold of a 6th, 7th guy on a championship team because he is one,
Yeah.
Yes.
It's clearly part of the formula.
Yeah. DJ Daniels calling me out for a bunch of these, which I appreciate. But like this was 33-year-old Peja Stojakovic.
Yeah.
This was the last year of his entire career. He retired after this season. I'm not talking about prime Peja. So like, yeah, old, Shane Battier, some of these guys, like, he fits the statistical profile of pretty much all of them.
This is so much fun, man. I love doing these play deep dives. And we really just started at the dead end of the bench and we're kind of working our way up. And I don't know, it feels like folks in the chat comments, let us know who you want us to deep dive on. We've probably got time for a couple more before the season starts. And even like during the preseason, I think we can get into them. But it kind of feels weird. Like we didn't do a Tatum deep dive. We did the appreciation hour, which is, I think, the better like insight on Tatum. We kind of know everything about him. So to do the deep dive feels folly there, but I don't know, between you two, do you have a name that pops into your mind?
It's probably D White. I mean, I wouldn't mind talking maybe like, off the back of his brouhaha, but also maybe like talking about Horford. What can we expect from him in his later like his age 38 season? RJ likes the bench deep dives. Yeah, the less minutes the player has played, the more that RJ likes the deep dive. That's what I know for sure. Which
loves himself some Cater.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, we're about to name the whole team, which I don't think makes sense. But I think Jalen could be a really interesting one, just because his game sort of evolved very subtly last year in some ways. So I think we could kind of dig into that a little bit.
Absolutely.
Agreed. All right, can't wait. That's going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for joining us. Jake, you're going to be live on this channel Wednesday afternoon. Is that right, for the Philly version of our conference rival series?
Yes, 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. We will be doing the Philadelphia 76ers. We get True Bro Dude back on the pod.
Nice.
So, yeah, it's going to be good.
Love it. Can't wait. All right, guys. Spoonie, Jake, love your work, guys. Until next time, go Celts.